Okay, so I want to share with you an experience I had in the float tank. It's a mashup of a few things that you might be familiar with: Wim Hof technique, float tank, and DMT experience. All of these things happened simultaneously for me, and I want to share what that was like for me because it was a very unique experience and very eye-opening, and brought me to see that DMT is accessible and you don't need to actually smoke DMT to get there. First, I'm just going to share a little bit about where I'm coming from as far as what I've been doing on my journey that got me to this point. I'm going through a healing process of some kind. I discovered a little patch of eczema on my elbow, which I mentioned in a previous video, and that has been compelling me to make a lot of very significant changes in my life. Including dietary shifts. I'm on a diet where I'm not eating any inflammatory foods, and I'm trying not to stimulate my system too much with things that I put in it. And I'm starting to recognize food as medicine and food as fuel for my body. So for the last 3 weeks, I've been on this elimination diet. I'm also feeling really called to drop this life that I'm living, this particular narrative in this particular city, and uproot and go to another city, and looking at possibilities and ways that I can do that, and just trusting the universe will offer me what I need to get there. That's just a bit of a backstory on me and where it is that I'm coming from. As far as how all this came to be, okay, so here we go. You ready? I had a little puff of weed outside of the float, just like about 10 minutes before I went in for my float session. I didn't have too much, just a little bit. I made a few notes. Let me just get back to the screen. Wake up. Wake up. Sorry, I had to move the computer because it was sitting on top of this board that's on top of the radiator, and the computer got hot and shut down. So I go into the float and I start kind of moving around intuitively, like allowing myself to kind of settle into the space and everything. And that's my typical way of easing into a float experience. I just kind of like wiggle around until I feel ready to settle. And just so you know, for anyone who doesn't know, I've been floating for 4 to 5 years, and I have lots of experience in there. So that's a little more background as well. So yeah, I get into the float, I'm moving around. I start to sort of play with my breath a little bit. I start to, no actual technique at this point. I'm just really wanting to connect to my breath, you know, just like letting myself like kind of inflate and deflate and inflate and deflate, and allowing the inflation and deflation to sort of motivate my movement and sort of expansion and contraction. I'm connected to breath and physicality. I was just feeling like a mechanism of breath. It was like I was embodying my own lungs in some ways. So that was something I was playing with in the beginning. And eventually, once I started to settle, once I realized I wanted to just lay there and just be with myself, I started to get into the Wim Hof method, which is something I've only just started practicing. I started about a week ago, and I've been doing it every day, and I've been doing the cold showers along with it, and I freaking love it. I'll be doing a testimonial video on that as well, so if you're interested, stay tuned for that. Okay, so I start the Wim Hof method, and for anyone who doesn't know what the Wim Hof method is, I'll also just provide some links in a really sweet video that I'm learning from of Wim Hof himself teaching the method. But basically, it's a series of breathing segments. So there's intentional breathing and being really cognizant of the breath. I think the emphasis is on being present for each breath, and the intention of what you're doing, and maintaining count is not super important, but ideally it's 30 to 40 breaths per cycle, and then there's a moment, there's a chunk in between where you're holding without any air. So just the inhales are really strong and in complete inflation of the abdomen, the chest, and then the head. So it's imagining the whole body filling up with air and engaging those muscle groups and that awareness to the body. And I found that while I was practicing this technique in the tank, that I felt like I was like a balloon, expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting. And then I realized that I am not a balloon. I am the air in the balloon. And I was noticing that I was feeling the insides of myself in some ways, the inside of my body. Like it was like I was air inside of a balloon that was inflating and deflating and inflating and deflating, and feeling this from the inside, which was really, really interesting to experience. It's like having fingers on the inside of my body. I've never felt that before. I did attempt Wim Hof method in the tank on my first Wim Hof experience was in the tank, and it was actually a little bit similar to that, this feeling, but it did not go to this place that I'm about to get into. So as I'm starting to experience myself feeling like a balloon, or feeling like the air in a balloon, expanding and contracting, expanding and contracting, I'm starting to feel the tingles in my fingers, and it's advised that if you start to notice something like this, to really pay attention to it, to really not try to make it go away. Don't be resistant to it. It's all part of the process. Just allow it to be there. Focus on it. Feel it. Really, really feel it. Feel yourself connected to this. Yeah, my hands were buzzing. I started to hear buzzing happening and vibration in my body, and it went from my hands to my lungs, from my hands to my lungs, and letting go of the fear about passing out, or letting go of the fear of being out of control about the sensations and what's happening in my body. I didn't feel any of this. I didn't feel fear. I felt very intrigued, and I felt like a watcher inside of all of this experience. I felt like I was observing myself breathing. I am being breathed. I feel like it sort of became like this automatic sort of experience where the breathing is, this technique is just happening, and I'm watching it happen, which was very interesting, almost like being puppeted by the intention to breathe like this. And that's where I started to feel and hear like this buzzing sound, like just like taking over my whole body. And that's where I started to feel like I was blending into the environment. And in the float tank, I already feel that way. I already feel like that's, the environment is designed to feel like you lose connection between outside and inside world, and you just sort of melt away. So it was like that, but it was very DMT flavored. I started to feel the exact same physical feeling that I feel when I'm in DMT space, and I had a really conscious mind about it. So I was feeling myself, my hands, I felt like my hands were sort of shifting and shuddering like this, shifting and shuddering. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but just almost like a feeling of like this is all fluid, right? This is like fluid, but it was like I was feeling it in a really jointed way, and just kind of, it was like the Matrix, like time had changed, and I had I was experiencing time differently in my motion, and it was all like kind of, I could feel the tick 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 tick, the precision of the movement. I was able to watch it. I was able to observe like what this feeling really is. Like, what is this feeling? And it's like, it's kind of wet, and like I know that I'm in a wet environment, but I feel wet in a different way. Like I feel wet in DMT way. Like I don't know if you've done DMT before, if you've felt this feeling of having kind of like a wetness to the experience, but I put my finger on it finally, and the wetness is actually feeling myself from the inside. Like I could actually feel the inside of my body at the same time as feeling the outside of my body. So I could feel the cool, dry of the outside of my body and the wet warmth of the inside of my body. And that was this weird contrast that was sort of being displayed in my experience. I'm in this feeling of buzzing and vibrating and kind of blending into my environment, and just being in that space. I was allowing myself to let go. I was allowing myself to release whatever's here, that's any grasping. Just allow whatever. Some part of me was like asking to die. Like it was like this very it was like a death in many ways. It felt like I was dying and allowing myself to step into another dimension, and trusting that this is part of the process that I was in. I realized that this is my energy, that this, what I'm feeling is my energy, and I can connect to this anytime I want to, and I can, if I put this into practice, I can allow myself to really feel that more. So I had my hand on my heart, my hand on my solar plexus and my stomach kind of, and just allowed myself to just breathe. I'm starting to breathe normally now. I'm allowing myself to come back, but really slowly, no pressure to like come back anytime soon. It's all okay. Everything I'm feeling is okay. And this whole part of the process was just like very healing, very soothing, and very maternal, and very sweet. Yeah, so while I'm holding on to my heart and while I'm holding on to my solar plexus, I'm feeling that charge even more. I'm feeling the vibration in my heart like a lot, and I'm breathing normally now, but this vibration is just like, it's like I created a circuit and I just went, I could feel the circuit that I was creating and connecting my hands on these points. And as a result, like I started to get sort of information downloads coming through as in this position. So I'm holding this and I'm receiving the information from some source telling me that I'm a healer and I'm healing myself. And this, I forgot to mention before I started all of this, because of this rash I have on my elbow, I asked my body, like, I asked that part of my body, I asked the rash, like, what do you have to share with me? Like, what is it that you're trying to teach me right now? And so full circle, the end of this float experience, I am being reminded of my rash on my elbow, because there's this stinging, mild tingling experience that I'm having. A wordless response, but in many ways it was a reminder that I have the power to heal myself, that I can do so with my breath, and I can do so with consciousness and awareness and attuning my attention to what it is my body needs. And it's as simple as that. It felt affirming. It felt like what I needed to hear from myself in a lot of ways. So I realized also while I'm sitting here that, I don't need DMT anymore. I don't need to go into those spaces and dive into those depths of myself with some other substance, with a practitioner. I can hold this space myself. I can create these experiences for myself. And life is a ceremony. Our bodies are sacred, and how we are with our bodies is a reflection of how our level of consciousness, like what fuel are we putting in our bodies? What experiences are we allowing ourselves to have? Are they nourishing us? As far as like the social interactions that we have, as far as the content that we allow ourselves to watch, like the news, is that nourishing you? How are we with other people? Are we gossiping? Is that nourishing you? Are you listening to other people gossip? Does that nourish you? Like food, like, everything, it can all be looked at in this way. And once I started to really see that, I realized that I've been harming myself in a lot of ways, unconsciously. And this, what I'm experiencing with my arm right now, is an invitation to step into higher expression myself, to get more consciousness in this lifetime. So feeling super grateful for what I've learned in this experience. Really looking forward to exploring this more in this way. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I hope it was nourishing for you. I hope that you got something out of it. I only want to provide content that is nourishing for people. Yeah, that's it. That's all I really wanted to say for now. I will have a bunch of other videos, like I was saying, in the pipeline. So yeah, if you're interested in tracking my journey, yeah, keep watching, and I will see you all later. Bye, 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 bye.